I consider myself Maori. 3, 2, 1.
Cool. So the reason why I picked a spot is like I'm Cook Island Māori, so I'm not technically New Zealand Māori, but like if you go backwards, like the Māoris went to the Cook Islands before they came to Aotearoa, so I am, but I ain't. And all my siblings are half Māori, so we grow up Māori styles.
I would say I am Māori. Even though I may look not like a little bit whitewashed with how I am, I think that if you have Māori blood in you, you are instantly a Māori. Whether you carry that with you or not, it's still going to be there no matter what. As a teacher, I like to incorporate a lot of tikanga in my teaching lessons because I know that it's a language that needs to be supported, and I feel like it's my role for carrying on with my ancestors to keep that going forever. As much as I can, even though I am a bit nervous sometimes, I've just got to keep it going and do my best.
Ethnically, I am Māori, but in my personal life, I don't engage in much of my Māori heritage and culture. I don't speak any te reo. I don't really know anything about Māori culture. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I have no, Māori heritage in me, I know my roots. I'm Samoan, born in Oz. Yeah.
Most New Zealanders are connected with nature and their environment. 3, 2, 1.
I think most New Zealanders like to think they're outdoorsy and often visit nature, but not a lot of them understand their food sources, how our environment actually is preserved, and the work that goes into maintaining conservation. And therefore, people might go camping, but they'll stay in huts. They don't know how to camp, and if you put them in the middle of nowhere, most of them would make it home alive. So I don't think we have a real connection to nature, although we claim the clean, green New Zealand environment sort of branding.
I think I agree on that one, that they do a lot of outdoors activities. But you can look at me, I don't do them. Okay. Yeah, I'm not built for that, even though my people tend to cross country a lot. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of protection to the environment, but that they know about it, no. I think it's just more what the government tells them to do, and that's it, pretty much.
Yeah, I think the key word here is most, I don't believe that most New Zealanders, are connected, because I think, the ones that are is a minority, and that's why, te reo Māori, etc., is on the verge of extinction, That's why they're pushing for it so much, to keep it alive, which is all the practices, etc. But yeah, I think it's a minority. There are New Zealanders out there, that are, connected with their roots in nature, etc. But to be honest, I forgot the question.
Best politician, huh? Most New Zealanders are connected with nature and their environment.
Oh yeah, along those lines. But yeah, I think it's a minority,
Yeah, now that he said that, I do agree a little bit more with going that way. But most New Zealanders are, I would say, Māori, especially up in the North Island. But I think that with the likes of te reo, and through my learning of teaching and te whāriki, you realise that a lot of what we do is relating to nature, and I think Māoridom, I don't know exactly what it is, but their look on Earth is that there's Papa Tuanuku, there's Ranginui, there's all these gods, and they are protecting us, and we're just kind of on their land, if that makes any sense. So no one owns any of this nature, and that's what makes them more connected, because I guess the land's doing them a favour by growing us crops, and we're kind of just looking after that in some sense. But that's just kind of a whole spiritual thing, and something that I'm also learning about as well in my journey of life. But yeah.
Hunting and fishing are a core part of New Zealand's culture and heritage. They are also ethical ways of getting food. 3, 2, 1.
Well, I think everybody eats KFC, so I don't think that's hunting. But I just live in West Auckland, so that's different. No, I don't think or believe. I know fishing is a big thing in this part of the world. I don't support it. I think it shouldn't be. Like I don't consider myself like on pro like protecting the animals, but to see it as a sport in that kind of situation, I think it's a little bit complicated. So yeah, I don't think it's a way that it's huge in this country, but I don't agree with it.
So I somewhat agree, only because I'm from a little small town in the South Island, Blenheim. But from what I know, living there and its culture, we've got a lot of bogans, and they love to just go out and fish and do their hunting and all that stuff. So I support that. I know that they're always going to take as much as they need. But I don't support the boys on their Tinder profiles that like just catch the fish so then they can pose with it. But yeah, I like people that do it for the love of it. They take what they need but don't take any more.
So as a hunter and a conservationist, this is a really sort of key thing for me. In New Zealand, on our doors of Parliament, there are two things that are on the entry. One is a rifle or a musket, and the other is the Treaty of Waitangi. So that sort of speaks to the foundation of this country was built with adventurers who used firearms to help sort of tame this wild environment we have. On the ethical food gathering front, I'm a hunter because I appreciate going out and getting my own food that I know has lived a good life, as do many others. There are 243,000 licensed firearms owners who hunt. That's a lot of us, and we just keep to ourselves. We're doctors, lawyers, and a whole bunch of other careers from builders, whatever. We know that the meat industry, you've probably seen the people, the vegans, standing on the street with videos of how cruelly animals are killed in New Zealand for the processed meat. I can't abide by that. I don't enjoy partaking in that, so I'd rather source my own food more ethically.
Gun violence is a major problem in New Zealand. 3, 2, 1.
I think all violence that ends up taking somebody's life is a major issue, no matter how small or how minute the actual number is. So even though gun violence isn't the biggest cause of deaths in New Zealand, it's still a major problem.
I agree that gun violence is a major issue because at the end of the day, it does cost people's lives. The reason I'm not fully in support of that side is because I believe that the media takes every small incident and then blows it out of proportion and focuses on the firearm. Only recently have they started changing the narrative and asking what the reasons behind the crime are and who are the people committing it and using firearms to do harm in our society. There are a lot of licensed and legal people who have felt scapegoated by the current or by the previous governments and blamed for gun crime when they had nothing to do with it. So, although gun crime is a serious issue, I don't think it's a major issue for New Zealand.
Yeah, so all I can kind of say is in that perspective, like, unless you're first-hand knowing about these things, we only are told what we know through the likes of social media and the news. So, like, we only know, I guess, smidgen of what gun violence is like. However, I guess, like, the police know a lot more. Whether we know into all of these gun violence things that happen, it's really hard. So I guess you've got to kind of be in the likes of knowing those things and being kind of there to understand it fully.
Yeah, just from experience, I know that there's a lot of violence here in New Zealand, especially when it comes to gangs. There's gun violence itself isn't as occurs as often as it does, in other countries. Although, so that's why I'm standing here in between like agree and neutral. But it's still a very big issue, and I know that it does occur. A lot of times it's not shown on the news, but gun crime can be used in several ways. For example, standing someone over, et cetera, et cetera. So I still think it's a major issue. It's just not. It just doesn't occur as often as it does elsewhere.
I think one of the reasons that it's not more of an issue in New Zealand is because we have some of the best firearms control laws in the world. We have mental health checks, we have background checks on individuals, we have interviews in your home, storage requirements, and things that aren't present in the rest of the world like New Zealand. That contributes to one of the lowest rates of gun violence and accidental gun deaths in the world. So that culture of safety, I think, is present in New Zealand where it's not in the world, and that's why it's less of an issue for us.
Rugby is the best sport in the world. 3, 2, 1.
It can't be because the NBA exists.
Where's my UFC fans at? Let's go.
Right here.
I'm just standing here because I like to support the rugby league boys. Go the Warriors.
Okay, I'm standing in the middle because you said in the world. So I was like, it's a big sport in New Zealand, yes. And like everyone backs the All Blacks, everyone backs the Warriors. But the NBA does exist. Like basketball is my sport, so that's why it's like in the middle. There's more sports.
Well, I come from a country that does soccer, football. So I think that's the biggest one. Like, there's nothing compared to what football is around the world, and boxing is also the second one. So I think if you go talking about, I didn't know that rugby existed until I came here. So that's why I'm standing here. But I really like. It's very impressive what the boys do when they play rugby. But yes, and famous, nah.
So although I enjoy rugby, when it comes down to it and there's a disagreement on the field, the first thing they start doing is throwing punches. I'm more of a fan of skip the rugby, jump straight to the UFC. Go Israel Adesanya.
Protesting international wars, like the Israel-Hamas war or Ukraine from New Zealand, are an effective use of energy. 3, 2, 1. Would you like that repeated? No worries. Protesting for international wars like the Israel-Hamas war or Ukraine from New Zealand are an effective use of energy.
So I'm sitting at neutral only because it's very opinionated, this topic. I feel like as New Zealanders, even though we're small, we are so loud as a country. However, in saying that, it's really hard to decide if it is the best thing that we can be doing or the worst thing, because as we all know, like, we only see what we see. So I'm just sitting in neutral for this one. But yeah, I think all that stuff is like disgraceful. It's just really hard because a lot of it is to do with like all the other stuff like governmency and stuff like that. So I'm gonna stay out of this one.
So I live in Wellington, right near Parliament, and is where I work. So every day almost I walk past people who are protesting one issue or another. When you speak to them, very few of them actually understand the complexities of international politics to the point that it feels like it's become fashion or a trend to stand up for these things rather than a meaningful debate or conversation around it. When I look at what New Zealand is going through as a country, I think that their efforts could be better placed to fixing their own communities and helping our own before protesting on a lawn about international communities that will, sure, maybe they see your TikTok post, whatever else, but like you could actually help someone who's suffering in New Zealand, one of our own people first. I think that would be a more effective use, is rebuilding our own communities before worrying about talking for social clout or whatever it is about other global issues.
There is no inherent negative or like positive towards protesting. It's all just up to your personal beliefs and what you're trying to express in a situation. But I I don't engage in protests. I have not been to a protest since high school, so I am not active in the community enough to like understand New Zealand's protesting climate. I don't. Whenever there is a protest in town that's going to disrupt traffic, I just avoid town.
I love being a New Zealander. 3, 2, 1.
I just personally don't like nationalism. I don't agree with supporting a country just because you're born in the country. There is nothing to avidly dislike about the country, but there's no inherent positive, you know.
Well, besides being Australian, being stuck here in New Zealand, I've got to say, the prices here in New Zealand are way over the top, What else? There's a lot of, unnecessary violence here. It's just heaps of things that could improve, but it is a beautiful country. The people here are beautiful, once you get to the beautiful side of it. But yeah, I'm not New Zealander, so I can't relate.
So I'm a New Zealander by import. My parents are English and Thai. They came here because they loved not necessarily the nature and the culture, although that was it, but they thought this was a great place to build a life for a family. When I look at the life I have, we have beautiful mountains which have food that is free for anyone to go out there and gather themselves. We've got the right to protest, the right to vote. And yeah, we have problems with rising sort of interest rates, poverty rates and things. There is work to do in our country, but when I look at the rest of the world and the issues they're facing, there's no other country I'd want to live in.
Well, I'm quite proud of where I am today. I would have never thought I'd be where I am. And I think I have to thank, New Zealand for that. I grew up in a little country school, so I got to experience all of that. And every time I go back home, I just think, wow, I'm so grateful to be able to go down to the Marlborough Sounds in my boat and go biscuiting and all these amazing things, because we've got to thank, our environment that we're in. And yeah, I think there is some opinionated topics about New Zealanders, but from what my colleagues have said, they have come from Korea and they've come from South Africa, and they've told me that it's an amazing place. It is expensive, but in saying that, I think I'm very proud to be here, and although I may not be staying here for long, I think it's a really good foundation of where I get my personality from and all those things that come with being a New Zealander. I think being a Kiwi is pretty rad.
Well, personally, myself, I've been in this country for 8 years. I already have myself a Kiwi. So he was born here. I call him McSiwi. But I'm born and raised in Mexico. So I grew up really where the bad things happen. And all my life I had really, really bad situations happening. So coming to a country that, to me, I remember the first news that I saw about New Zealand was that some ship was lost and the police were looking for the ship. I was like, oh my God, this is heaven. Anything bad that happens in this country, to me, is just nothing, compared to where I come from. So I think New Zealand is a safe haven. That's how I see it. I always tell everybody, you don't know how lucky you are to be in New Zealand, and it's hard. It's hard to stay. It's difficult to stay. So if you may manage to stay in this country, the reward it's amazing. So yeah.
Yeah. I like being New Zealander. We're kick back ass. That's what I love about it. Everyone's chill. We're not so serious. We got banter. Our personality is sarcasm. Legit. Everyone just takes the piss. It's just fun. You don't meet those type of people. And we're very humble as well. We're always, and we're always helping. We always help people. That's just us. Yeah, and being brought up in South Auckland as well, you meet so many different types of people from different backgrounds. Everybody is all different. And then, yeah, you just kind of understand how everybody is. We're just people living in this world, just cruising. It's fun. I love it. Could be worse.
You just made me think about last night. So me and my flatmate, and it was just like the most Kiwi thing ever. So we decided to buy a stripper pole, so we were setting it up, and like we just didn't want to look at the instructions. And the first thing I thought is, we are such Kiwis right now, because I feel like our culture is like, we look at the instructions, nah, don't need that. So we were just sitting there for like 2 hours trying to make this pole, and we just kept on like looking at the instructions like, nah, it's all good, it's all good. But we ended up just watching a YouTube video. But I feel like, yeah, that just, I guess, as a Kiwi, it's like we don't take things that seriously. We go to supermarkets with no shoes on, with our jammies on, like, and I feel like that just goes to show that we don't care who we are, but we are what we are, and yeah, ciao.
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, I just want to go to Countdown without hearing like a Yoza or something, you know. But yeah, shout out all my New Zealanders.
That's the end of the episode. Hug it out.